I have this starter circuit here that I want to use to demonstrate an interesting concept of using a relay to control a high current device. I have the ignition switch right here. This is the starter relay, the solenoid, and then the starter itself. Right now I've disconnected the starter and the solenoid, so the only thing that's going to turn on is this starter relay. I'm going to use this multimeter to measure the current that's required to turn this starter relay on. So when we're measuring current, we want to make sure that we are measuring in line. It doesn't matter if you measure on the ground side or the power side. So here I'm measuring at pin 85 on the ground side, and so when I crank this over I should see this measurement in milliamps. So I'm going to turn my circuit on, and then when I crank this over we'll be able to see this relay close and then read the measurement in DC amps. So approximately 192 milliamps to turn on the coil that is closing the switch. I've reconnected my relay right here, and the next thing that I'm going to do is connect the solenoid. So this is the input to the solenoid right here. I've actually extended it out so it's a little bit easier to see. I'm going to plug this in, and now what we should see is we'll see some action right here. This pinion gear is going to slide out, but it's not going to rotate because I have the starter disconnected. So the current that we're reading now will be the current in the solenoid. And we're going to use this meter down here. This is going to help us to read the current. So I'll turn my circuit on. You'll notice that the voltage is a little bit high. That's just because I'm using a boost pack to jump this. So the current's not going to be exact, but we'll get a rough idea of how big it scales when we move from the coil to a solenoid. So I'm going to crank this over. And we saw about 41 amps. Okay, now I'm going to hook up the starter and we'll read the current that it takes to do the starter. Now, because of the way this meter is connected, we're actually going to be reading the solenoid and the starter at the same time, but we can subtract those 40 amps from it. Okay, so once again we're going to read our current right here, and we need to subtract 40 amps from right here. So let's turn it back on. So we should see this pinion gear will now slide out, and it's going to rotate as well. So let's take a look at what that current looks like. So it's about 246 amps at peak. So approximately 240 and 190 milliamps. So we can see that we can use a very small wire to pass a whole bunch of current onto the starter through the relay to the solenoid and then out to the starter.